So this evening I'm going to show you the best typography in the whole world, or as I think anyway. So I discovered this when I was very young, and subconsciously I think it's informed my career. And I mean, people ask me all the time, what inspires you? And I hate that question, and I always refuse to answer it. Probably just because I can't be bothered with the word count, but mostly because I think that inspiration is a very sort of cheap way of describing the things that we interact with that are part of our culture, part of our everyday sort of visual environment. So this is my perspective on what is the best typography and illustration in the world. So I have been obsessed with Bubblicious bubblegum ever since I can remember being allowed to have bubblegum. I mean, I guess everybody remembers those days, like pre-bubble and chewing gum when we were too young to have it, because I remember once I had, I stole a pack of extra from my brother, and I wasn't allowed to chew chewing gum, but I kept it in a little locked cupboard and had it at night before bed, and one night I fell asleep with it in my mouth, and it got stuck on my silk pajamas, and my mum was so angry with me. Anyway, so yeah, Bubblicious basically has formed my entire aesthetic. This is some amazing old references that I found when I was searching for other Bubblicious typography. And I think everything about the stuff I'm going to show you today is amazing. Like the illustration that accompanies the text, the color palettes, and always with print, especially on such a massive scale like this, the colors palettes are normally quite small, so you get these amazing halftones, and you have really inventive use of packaging printing. I mean, look at that, it's amazing. I just don't think that anything speaks to the consumer more than Sweets packaging. Something about it that's just so perfect. It has to represent the flavor, what it is, the style, and it's this amazing, bright, sort of communicative tool to speak to little children and adults alike. So I recently found out that Salvador Dali actually designed the Chupa Chups logo, which kind of blew my mind. This is the original that he did for a friend, which he sketched, I think, on a napkin or something in a bar. And he insisted that the flower sit on the top of the lollipop rather than on the side, as it still does to this day. But I didn't know that, because I was thinking all this time, like, why haven't the greats ever designed any Sweets packaging or logos, because they're amazing? And then I found out that Dali had. But all of these things just combine all of the most essential parts of illustration and graphic design. And I just don't think there's any denying it. Obviously, also tied in with Sweets packaging is this massive sense of nostalgia, whether it be from living in America or living in Mexico or living in Japan or wherever, or traveling. Like, I always think that my souvenirs when I come back from a city is bringing home a huge sack of candy from whichever city I've been to. And a lot of the time, like when people are reminiscing about their sort of favorite sweets from when they were a kid, if I've been to the country that they're from, I know what they're talking about. It's kind of like my tourism. And I remember even here, Warheads, when I was a kid, and they came into the school playground. I think they got banned because they had a pepper one that was like so dangerous that kids actually got sick and had to be sent home. But I mean, look, Hubba Bubba Bubble Jug. I mean, this is like, for me, walking down the aisles of Woolworths when it existed, at about the age of like 9, when I was allowed to walk to Muswell Hill Village on my own, was literally like my Tate Modern as a kid. Like push pops and bubble jugs and fruit by the foot and all of that crap. Just everything about it is just so amazing, and I think we totally overlook this kind of stuff. So basically, to prepare for this talk, I just Google image searched my favorite sweets. And, it wasn't difficult to find images, of course, but I think there's definitely something in every single piece of packaging. And I've got some really, really old stuff in here. I mean, I'm sure everybody will remember the Slush Puppy logo. I recently found a cafe that still sells original Slush Puppies with the old machines. And I think, I'll still seek out all of this old stuff. Unfortunately, Sweets fall apart over time, and so do their packaging. But if anyone's sort of interested in this line or this sort of area, the Brand Museum has an amazing collection of packaging for all things cereal, soap, everything you could possibly imagine through the ages. So they'll have categories of like the 90s, so you can look at stuff about when you were growing up, or the 80s or 70s or whatever. And I think the most amazing examples that they have is they'll have a product from its conception to the current day and the entire timeline. So if anyone's looking for a nice day out at a privately owned collection of pieces, the Brown Museum's in West London. Yeah, I mean, it's so amazing. If I could have anything on my notice board at work, it would be sweets. And I do. I have hundreds and hundreds of packets of sweets, and people post them to me, and I collect them from all over the world. And I think, every single one of them is an inspiration. And I never use that word lightly. But, look at that. Look at the O with the rocks popping off it. I mean, literally every illustration job I have, I would take inspiration from these products. Look at how rubbish the British interpretation of popping candy is compared to the American one. I mean, Fizzways already failed miserably when they were designing their packaging in comparison to Pop Rocks. And I mean, look at the palettes in that, and it photographs so beautifully. And luckily, I found a website that had high-res imagery of all of this stuff, because it's definitely going in my storage. And this is an example of candy that I have boxes and boxes of this, but I detest it. But I love the packaging. So I own loads of this disgusting licorice Good and Plenty, but the packaging is so amazing, it's worth having. Yeah, so I just wanted to give you a couple more images. These are chappies, which are a sort of weird, hard to explain, sort of tastes a bit like root beer, but they're supposed to be fruit-flavoured bubblegum that you get in South Africa. And Mallow cups are obviously American. They're kind of like a peanut butter cup with like a really false marshmallow in the middle. And I'm sure you'll remember Runts. I have hundreds of these whirly pops, which are impossible to eat, but I just look, the logo, I mean, it's perfect. Some more Runts. And it's kind of sucks now, because all this new packaging, and F.A.O. Schwarz in America, they have now taken it all and slapped it all over T-shirts, and you can buy sweet tart pillows and bedspreads and all this stuff, and it's a real shame that they're using sort of really horrible flat stuff instead of the old original artwork. This is an example, again, of some really old school artwork, Big League Chew and Fund It. I mean, that's amazing. And yeah, that's it. That's my talk. Thanks.